1964, the SS Blue Lady was being constructed in a fictional harbor called Yankerton. Yankerton Harbor was not that big, but it took nearly 16,000 workers to complete the building. The ship was very large for cruising, as in this world, cruising is getting very, very popular. At the end of construction a year later, the Blue Lady sets its first voyage out on sea. It completes many voyages in 1966 and 1967. At least over 16 voyages before it would meet its demise. It left harbor at 10 p.m. because this cruise was leaving late. It had many delays, many storms were coming through. But 10 p.m., 1965, February 27th, it left harbor. It was setting sail, everything seemed to be going amazing, as this was its first voyage. It was attempting to get to somewhere off in the distance. And that place would be called Baronsville. Baronsville was a place constructed in 1809, and it was invaded about 7 times before being captured straight by the British. The British were the ones who could capture it, and Blue Lady would make its first voyage there in all its glory. The SS Blue Lady only was making it until, well, something happened. The captain was not paying attention to the ship, and well, they were having dinner the next day at 5. They weren't paying attention, the other people were talking, everybody was there until someone noticed that it was too late, and then the ship crashed into the shoreline of Baronsville Harbor. It crashed in there, leaving minimal damage. Water rushed into the front of the thing, flood doors were closed, and alarms were set off. Although this accident would not be as deadly to everybody because they quickly sent a repairman down there and he got it fixed up. But now was the task of drying up the ship. Baronsville was not even half a mile away. They put the ship on dead slow and they proceeded to get all of this water out of the hold. And the ship was safely there. They had a little boat come out so that they could escort all of the passengers out of the boat and onto safety. But it was still barely safe. The company was sued for destroying some of Baronsville Harbor. So in return for this, the Blue Lady had to go all the way back. Back at Yankerton was the SS Blue Lady. It was sitting here in disrepair because, well, it was sitting here. It didn't make a voyage for another 3 years after 1967. And while those 2 years were not in vain, the ship started to rot away due to the water currents. The SS Blue Lady quickly started to rot away after being in 2 years of discontinuement, as another company would buy it and renaming it the SS Blue Star. And then while that was happening, they had nearly 50 workers cleaning up the ship. The ship was not even badly damaged, but still, even so, the rot and rust was still so hard to get off that it took them nearly a year to get all of it off. They worked every day for 24 hours. And then, nearly a month later after, someone finally got the call, and they set out on a marvelous voyage again from Yankerton. But while this was happening, a war was going on, and Yankerton would soon fall to another country. So this was the perfect time to leave. As it was setting out on its maiden voyage, something in the air. It was just an eerie day. It was March 31st. It was 9 a.m. Everybody had left for the ship. It was 1968, and well, it was just a very eerie day. But even so, it turned out that a storm was coming that day, and no one really knew about it since it was very unexpected. This caused the ship to go slower at half speed. And yet it was nearly not even halfway to Beringsville. But even so, the storm faded away quickly. They stopped the ship for a small break. Turns out that storm was just a small spurt of what had been coming since the following day. The ship was set out, but the clouds started to move very fast. The waves started to pick up. It started to rain. Lightning struck the waters, the very cold waters. It turns out a hurricane was coming over to the ship. And the news that day that nobody saw because the television had been bought out. And even so, this hurricane was not so much of a hurricane, but a tropical storm, but it was still very dangerous. A massive lightning ray had come down on the ship. It blasted the ship. The ship had no way to escape. And then a big gash in the ship started to form. The lightning was raging. It was breaking the ship, tearing it into shreds. The ship knew it had to move now, in which it tried. Part of the ship started to catch on fire. Lifeboats, commotion, screaming. This was the day that this ship never go on another maiden voyage again. This was the ship's last and final voyage. The SS Blue Star was crowded with people. People trying to get on lifeboats to safety. The storm was raging too much. Bigger gashes started to appear into the ship. The ship was quickly being taken over by water. In that moment, the ship's stress started to break. But then, something happened. A hull explosion occurred, and that caused the ship to be taken over by water. And in the end, it was always never worth it to go on a voyage. This would never occur again in the history of the Bastrian Ocean. The bow, meanwhile, hit the bottom of the ocean, falling to its demise where it would be stressed apart. The stern falling to its demise as well. It was almost crumpled under the weight of itself. As it falls down to never be seen again. Nearly 50 years after the incident, Beringsville was converted into Baxterville in honor of the Baxter Ocean. Some teen rescuers discovered the ship around here, and so on. They built a museum in Baxterville, a ship museum, the first ever one for the time. And as you see, this is where the ship rests today. The ship is old, rotting, but it will never be forgotten as it's honored today.
Wow, wow. Oh my God, I think I'm dying. Oh my God, I think